business arising from the meeting of November 19th, and I would ask you to refer to any agenda item numbers that are attached to have an item of recurring or returning business from that meeting. Business arising. Anything? This is when we miss call. This is when we miss Councilor Lane. We don't want to say anything right now. Who would redo the meeting for us. But no. Nobody? How good is that? All right, we are going to move along then on the agenda. If there's no business arising, the technology is going to work for me today. Okay, not going to work for me today. Council, we have some people in the room today, and we're going to be receiving a special presentation today, presented to us by the Solid Rock Wesleyan Church. Got some people here with us, which is why we all have to be on our very best behavior. I'm going to introduce them, though I think you probably know some of them, certainly Council you would. And down there is the senior pastor for the Solid Rock Wesleyan Church, which is Pastor Stuart Markles, down right there. Wave at everybody, Pastor. The head of the prayer ministry for the church, Winston Brown, down right there in the corner as well. And we have a representative of the executive of the men's ministry, Simon McInnes, who's also down here with us today. And I'm going to invite Mr. McInnes, I believe, is going to do all the talking here. I'm going to get you to come up here, if you would, Mr. McInnes, and give you this. I'm going to turn on this microphone. You come around here, and I'm going to give you a chance to address council and tell us what this is all about today. I think council will be interested in this.
Thank you, Your Worship. For a number of years, we've had a mandate within our church. We believe, even though we are a small church here in Mount Pearl, that we can impact the world, not only in our community, but globally and internationally. So our three mandates in our church basically are to make Christ known within our church, within our community, and globally. So last year, the men's ministry took on a project of praying for each individual street within your city, each individual business, each individual household, schools, churches, and I contacted you at the beginning of our project to get a copy of the Mount Pearl City map. So what we did is we took the Mount Pearl City map, and when every street was completed prayer, we highlighted it, and then at the end of it, we laminated it, and I made contact through Councillor Ledwell to come and make this presentation to you guys as just a small part of our ministry within Solid Rock, to say that we are one of the churches within the city that are praying for you as a council and as a city, and we'd like to make this presentation to you, Your Worship, to just say that we are continuing to pray for this city and for your impact within the city.
We are humbled and honored. Thank you very, very much. We need a picture. We're going to...
I'd like to have
Pastor, if you would. Mr. Brown, we want you all up here. Let's get a picture up front. Very, very, very. And you did every street.
We did every street within the bounds of Mount Pearl.
Identified and...
Yeah. We visited them either walking or some of us that had time constraints went to Google Maps and did the 3D Street View and prayed for the streets and businesses that way.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. That's wonderful. We're going to have to hang this up. Very, very nice. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Council has, this particular council, and I've been a part of this one for a long time, let me say that we have a certain understanding and relationship that we've always enjoyed with our churches. All of them, all faiths and all denominations. We really do believe that faith-based organizations that are driven not by government or not by any kind of paid or pushed organization, but those that actually reach out to the community, either through faith or simply because they care about their fellow man. has been something that we in our community, through our city council, we have long encouraged and cherished. I was surprised to discover shortly after I was made mayor, I was appointed mayor, I discovered, quite by accident, having talked to some ministers in town, that a number of our churches every Sunday morning would pray for us. And I was quite taken aback by it. But basically what happens, and I have no doubt it happens in your church as well, they prayed for all of those people who have authority within the community, that they make the right decisions, that they do the right things on behalf of their community and the people that they have deemed to feel that they themselves are worthy to represent, which, let's be honest, we didn't luck into this. We actually decided to go after it. Having that kind of support in our community is something I think is a tremendous asset for us. I trust that the relationship that we enjoy with our faith-based community of all faiths, particularly with yours as well, will continue to be one that will prosper and grow, and you will continue to contribute and make our city even stronger and better. I'm quite blown away by this. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very, very much. Council, a show of appreciation. How wonderful this is. Wonderful this is. And given the season that we're starting on, you're going to be the first people I've done this with. I want to wish you a joyous and Merry Christmas to you and your families. Thank you. Our residents should know that there are folks out there who care about us all. I appreciate it. Thank you. Any comments, Council? Hearing none, then, we're not going to make you suffer through this meeting. All right? After you do all that praying, you should not have to suffer the punishment of this meeting. Thank you so much. God bless. Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? Very, very nice initiative and a nice thing to do. That's great. The next item for us, then, we have no correspondence listed. We are going to go directly to our Community Services Committee report. Deputy Mayor Locke.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. Speaking of the season, the first is our annual Santa Claus parade this Saturday. Santa Claus. Sorry, I'm used to talking to my nieces and nephews. They call him Santa Claus. So that's the way you do it as well, Mr. Antle?
Santa Claus.
So this Saturday, 10 o'clock at the intermediate school, typically runs from the school down to Sobey. So everyone out, who's going from?
We're all going.
What are we doing this year?
We are walking this sucker. Except for, I'm giving Councillor Stoyles the mayor's car. Well, this year something new though, right? She has to drive it. Reg can't drive it this year. Now we're going to try and. I think most of us are going to try and walk it, aren't we? And wear our red toques.
Yeah.
Or do you want to go on a sleigh?
Well, I know we had a wonderful float last year. I know our staff.
Your shoulder is out. His back is out. Lucy's back is out.
Yeah.
Well, in honor of the fact that today, by the way, is the International Day of Recognition of People with Disabilities. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should, in honor of all of the disabilities I'm seeing around this chamber here, maybe we should ride in the sleigh. I don't know. What do you want to do?
Well, it's going to be difficult.
We'll discuss it, yeah.
What do we do combination?
Walk and sleigh.
What we'll do is we'll have the float. There's a float we can hop on or hop off. I promised our member of parliament when I was in Ottawa last week that I was going to walk with him. So
Okay.
I guess we're going to do that.
I know we got a great float, Your Worship, that our staff put together last year, and they were very proud of it, and it was a great showcase in the parade. So again, looking forward to that again this year.
It's going to be wonderful.
So again, Your Worship, it leaves the intermediate, travels along Ruth Avenue down Park. We'll finish at Mount Pearl Square. And for more information, anyone who would wish to join the parade as a group or with a float, they are asked to contact Mr. Gerald Coombs with the Mount Pearl Lions Club. Of course, they've been organizing this from the get-go, and his number is listed there, 368-6186, and that's for information purposes. The second one?
Deputy Mayor, just before we move on, I have late-breaking news and information regarding the parade.
Okay.
It's going to be longer this year. Because of the changes down at the intersection that leads into Sobey Square, they have to turn left onto Topsail Road, and we have to walk up to the center, up to the other entrance. So according to the Lions Club, they're adding about 350 feet
Okay.
to the parade.
Good to know.
Late breaking news.
There you go.
Right.
Why don't we do the loop?
We'll do a sprint.
Why don't we do the loop? All right. So that's always a great event. Looking forward to it. And again, it's this Saturday. Let's hope the weather cooperates. I haven't heard the long range, so let's.
Weather's supposed to be wet and warm Saturday.
Okay, all right. And in
Wear your toque.
keeping with our Christmas spirit, following our parade every year, we have again this Saturday at 6:30 p.m. here at City Hall, Centennial Square. We have the annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony. So again, come along, join us on council. Again, as we start and the celebration of our beautiful festive season, the Mount Pearl Girl Guides and O'Donnell High School Choir will lead us in singing of our favorite Christmas carols. And as always, we got some hot chocolate and some Christmas treats will be available. Just a reminder, although you say Your Worship that it's going to be a warm day, just dress accordingly, and if it's cold, put on your toque and come along. Any further questions, people are certainly welcome to contact the Community Services Department here at the city. And that's it from me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. And again, a reminder for everybody, including council, and I'm the one who always forgets. Now, why would I remember now? Bring a non-perishable food item to the parade, please.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, bring a toonie or a loonie. The money that's collected on the parade, Scotiabank matches it. I don't know if you know that. Scotiabank matches every dollar that's raised on the parade. Yeah, and they've been doing it for a number of years, which is a wonderful corporate investment in the community. So those of us around the table who have lots of money, let's say like I don't know, John Walsh and Lucy Stoyles, that I want them to bring both food and money to the parade. The rest of us, we only ought to bring one or the other. What do you think?
Both.
And wear your red toque. That's going on. Bring the food. Moving on, corporate services. Councillor Aker.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We have two items for Council's consideration today. The first item is a tax deferral for a low-income earner in accordance with our policy. For low-income earners, I recommend committee's recommending, I should say, we defer for the account listed there and the amount listed there. We defer their taxes, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Aker, seconded by Councillor Tessier. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
The invoices for approval by Council this week, there are 16 items listed there in the amount of $3,435,378.33.
Wow, that's a big bill, buddy.
Most notably made up of three main items. Marco, you can see payment for the multiplex, so almost $2 million. It's that time of the year. There's the road salt purchase, so I guess we'll be ready in Public Works and whatnot for the upcoming winter. You can see that item number 2 from Avalon Coal, and then you can also see two major payments there for, of all things, the real unglamorous stuff: water consumption and St. John's Regional Fire, and that makes up most of the list. And I'd like to move we approve this so staff can pay the bills.
We're moving invoices for approval. Seconded by Councillor Tessier. Any question or comment? Anybody who ever wonders, is the water free when you just let it run? $259,000, $259,725.48 is what the people in the city of Mount Pearl used in water in the month of October. 1 month. Wow. Anyway, call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. We're up to the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee report. Councillor Walsh, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The first item that we ask for support from Council for is a motion for approval of the tender for a tilt trailer. This was necessary to move along the acquisition that we made for transporting the man lift. If you recall, one time we used to rent man lifts to reach difficult places, whether we're in the warehouse or the depot or outside, servicing various areas of the city. But we went out and purchased one. Of course, now we need to be able to move it around. And this is a fairly heavy-duty triaxle trailer. We had 5 bids. We're recommending that we award the tender to Atlantic Trailer, which was the lowest qualified bid, and the cost for that is $17,750.04, which includes HST, and I so move.
Moved by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Question or comment on that? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The second item, I'm not going to bore you with the details of the project update at the multiplex, but we did note that it is 77% financially complete. I just wanted to thank our staff, Jerry, our director, and Daryl Drover, and also the people from Marco for accommodating last Sunday, a week ago, a little more than a week ago. We had a tremendous tour, a visit of the facility, and had an opportunity to see for ourselves just the complexity, the design, and particularly the magnitude of the facility. It is clearly going to be state of the art. I know Jerry gets pretty excited about the mechanical room and aspects related to that, and so he should.
Yeah, he doesn't understand us political people.
No, he doesn't, and we don't fully understand him, perhaps.
Oh,
but,
no, he talks in double Dutch, for God's sake.
But no, it is great. One of the things that it did provide, Your Worship, I think for all of us, is an appreciation for the size of it, and also probably for the technical details of when you're building pools, and we have this energy exchange system between the glacier and the pool, which we had referred to for so long as an eco-chill system, where we actually take the cool air from the glacier and we interchange that with the hot air from the pool, and vice versa. There are actually savings. There's a substantial cost up front in doing it that way, but it's a very green, environmentally friendly initiative, and we were delighted to see the complexity of that. I mean, just the size of the space alone where that is housed was impressive. It also reminded us, of course, that we now have very shortly we'll have a brand new, beautiful, state-of-the-art facility, so there are tremendous operational costs and additional staffing requirements related to that. So seeing is believing, as they say, and actually seeing the size of that and knowing how much we have to put into the operational side. It will be a tremendous asset, but we have to make sure that we maintain it, look after it, staff it properly so that it can truly serve the residents of Mount Pearl to the degree that it was designed to do. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. Pass on our thanks to all concerned, if you would, Mr. Antle, to Daryl in particular, and to the folks at Marco. They were extremely accommodating, and I think we all really appreciated the opportunity to tour.
We were quite impressed, I got to say. I was blown away by it. What that building is going to be. It's going to be iconic to Mount Pearl, I think.
I think so for many years to come.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue as part of our reports now to provide you with winter maintenance updates and usage of salt, and that's all there for your information. There's not much to holler right now except to say that we have used a little sprinkling of salt for ice control during November. It's kind of interesting that this time of the year and the early parts of winter and the late parts of winter are the most difficult in terms of ice control. Once you get continuous freezing temperatures, it's actually a little bit easier to manage, and you get a good sprinkling of salt on the roads. This time of the year, when you get heavy rains like we're getting today, if we were to get a cold freeze today, we've got some really bad problems with black ice and quick freezing temperatures, that sort of thing. So we do, as a means of caution, provide a little bit of salting and tend to the roads early. Even sometimes people may get a little surprised to see equipment out even when it's raining, but there's benefit to doing that, and we do provide that. Also a pre-brine mix as well, which enables us to stay ahead of it in terms of not getting the quick freezes and thaws that we sometimes experience on the shoulder seasons of winter, if you like. The next thing that I want to mention, Your Worship, is the fact that we're involved with sounds kind of impressive and convoluted. CoCoRaHS is actually a collaborative rain, hail, and snow networking that we're actually contributing to reporting, precipitation levels here in Mount Pearl. This is information that's provided. If you read the appended email, it's provided to Environment Canada. The province of Saskatchewan uses it very extensively with their farm information and reporting. And we're a participant in that, and we were happy to get involved in installing the necessary equipment to measure precipitation, particularly snowfalls in the wintertime, and to update the information so that they can actually, in turn, provide updated information on various locations across Canada in their reporting mechanism. In return, of course, we get to access Coco RAS information and attain information right across the country at our pleasure as well. So there are reciprocal benefits from our involvement. And I'm just passing that on to you for information purposes. As you know, we extended some staff in Public Works for an extra few weeks this year to complete two main projects. The first was the installation of the new playground equipment that we had in our storage for some time, but we hadn't yet had the opportunity to get it erected. That's out now in many cases. Stoico and Hand Place is completed, and there are a couple of pictures appended for council's review there. The Pumphrey playground itself is completed, but because of the lateness in the season, we're not able to get to the landscaping. It wouldn't be prudent to do that until the spring when it will take, and would probably be a bit of a waste of money if we tried to do that now. Bab Crescent Playground is currently on hold because of the condition of the ground, and may in fact wait until the spring before that's done. We had a fairly large project to be completed on Graham Place, which was adjacent to the Admiralty House Museum complex there, and that fence has been built and is completed. And the second component of this was actually the trail cutting. We had some staff working the trails. They were kept on, as I said, for an extra few weeks this year, and they did primarily these two major projects, the playground equipment and the cutting back of the trails. That's now been completed, I'm happy to report, and the whole projects on both accounts went extremely well. That's it for me, Your Worship, unless there are any questions.
Questions or comments on the report? Okay, thank you, sir, very much. Moving on, Planning and Development Committee report. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The first item on our agenda this evening is a development application by the First United Church on Park Avenue. They are proposing to extend the church building. They're proposing to complete interior renovations, consolidate land, and complete the associated site work at 221 Park Avenue. The proposed extension is going to have a total floor area of 248 square meters. It's going to be utilized as a multi-purpose room on the main floor and storage in the basement. Now, the church has existed on this site since 1953. And in July of 2012, a parcel of land at the rear of the property at 219 Park Avenue was consolidated and conveyed to the church to accommodate this particular expansion. And the property is located in the residential medium density zone, and this place of worship use is a discretionary use that is allowed in this particular zone. Public notice of this application for the expansion was published in the Telegram on November 9th. And the city has received no response in response to that advertisement of the process. Currently, the site does not currently accommodate the minimum parking requirements for church use. However, this church has existed on this site for a number of years, as we all know, and there have been very few complaints received over the years about on-street parking or any issues of congestion. In actual fact, the church is proposing to create 3 new parking spaces in the area of where the shed is currently located. I think we're all sort of familiar with that particular site. There was a shed there. That shed is going to be removed, and 3 new parking spaces are going to be installed there. Now, typically, this extension would require 4 parking spaces, but it is felt that because the congestion is really not going to be amplified by this particular proposal, that we can use some discretion here and allow the proposal to proceed with only the 3 parking spaces. Planning and development staff certainly support the application, and the committee certainly does support the recommendation as well. And so the recommendation is that the Planning and Land Use Development Committee recommends, the subject to Regulation 4.5, discretionary powers, the application by First United Church proposing to extend the existing building, complete interior renovations, consolidate land, and complete associated site work at 221 Park Avenue be approved, and a development permit be issued subject to the conditions in the kit, and I so move.
It is moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh. Question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favour? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. The second item we have is a development application by Discovery Holdings Limited. They are proposing to demolish the entire 1-story west portion of the existing building at 912 to 924 Topsail Road, construct a 2-story extension with a floor area of 834 square meters to replace the demolished area, and to renovate the existing two-story east portion of the building to accommodate a combined automotive sales and commercial garage use. There is additional gravel for temporary overflow parking proposed for the rear of the building. As well, the property at 938 Topsail Road, which is also owned by Discovery Holdings Limited, they're proposing to use that as additional vehicle storage parking. Now, the existing flanking street side yard measurements are currently non-compliant with the current development standards. However, it is the intention of the developer to construct on the existing building footprint. So, therefore, the expansion does certainly not increase the existing non-conformity. At the time of the application, the property was zoned commercial general. However, since an amendment has been undertaken and it's been rezoned as commercial mixed, this accommodates this particular use for automotive sales and commercial garage uses. The development complies with development standards applicable to the development, and thus the planning and development staff as well as the committee support the application. And therefore, the recommendation is that the Planning and Development Committee recommends that the application by Discovery Holdings Limited, proposing to demolish the entire one-story west portion of the existing building, construct a two-story building extension with a floor area of 834 meters squared to replace the demolished area, and renovate the existing two-story east portion of the building at 912 to 924 Topsail Road to accommodate a combined automotive sales and commercial garage use be approved, and a development permit be issued subject to the conditions recommended by the Planning and Development Department. And I so move.
Wow, you couldn't say that in one breath, could you?
No.
I am moved and seconded by Councillor Walsh. Question or comment?
Yeah.
Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I do have a question, Your Worship. Obviously, this is at the bottom of Farrell Drive. It's not an ideal location for a garage, but I can't seem to make sense from the map portion whether or not this is actually, is there a drive-through in this garage? Would the cars just come in and go all the way through to the back, or would they come out? And I'm asking the question. I know I'm a member of the committee, but the time we met last week, I was actually in Labrador, and I missed that meeting. So what's the plan for that, Mr. Yefchak? Are the cars, I mean, they're showing cars on the map here. I understand the building and the design. There's parking on the front, but it looks like there could be parking at the rear as well, or is there a drive-through there?
Your Worship, the proposal is to have access into the building from the front of the building. There'd be no rear wall doors or accesses. And the reason for that is right behind them is actual residences. And one of the first discussions we had with the developer was that we wouldn't be allowing loading doors in the back or bay doors, because then once you have them open, of course, noise jumps up at the residents. They do, however, they do have a parking area in the rear. Actually, I think cars do park there at the present time. They had done some work when they were actually renovating the building for another use. But the intention for the most part is that the access will be from the front of the building. It'll be for the most part a storage display area, showroom type area for cars for the most part. And what they are doing, which is going to be an improvement to the site, is if you recall in the corner of Farrell Drive and Topsail Road, there's an existing access right at the corner there. They're going to actually close that access off so that there's no access right at the intersection. Yeah, the access comes further down. Good idea, yeah. So from the planning department's perspective, while this is not the most ideal building to be renovating in this manner, it's certainly an improvement to what is there right now.
Yeah, it's a good redevelopment of that site.
Thank you. It's always interested in knowing whether it was a drive-through.
That was a very, very, very good question. Once I looked at the map, I saw that as well. Okay. We'll call it then, or any other comment? Hearing none, we'll call it. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll continue on with the development permit list. Of course, you see there in the kit, development permits 75 to 80, and I would like to move that Council accept the issuance of these permits, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, carried.
And finally, Your Worship, we have the fees listing there. First of all, on the residential side of things, the total for the period is $58,100, and I so move.
Moved, seconded, all in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried. Oh, I'm sorry, question, Councillor Aker, wasn't looking at you there.
It doesn't happen very often, I don't think, during the permit listing. I want to make a comment about permit number 671, which is for 13 Pinware. That's a case where we're adding a second driveway to the front lawn. Right. And generally speaking, it's not consistent with the way we do our development.
Right.
What I would ask the committee to do, and I must say the committee done a great job, and the department, in moving the driveway so that it's not close. The issue is sometimes when you have driveways adjoining each other, it doesn't always make for good relations with snow clearing and whatnot between neighbors. The committee and the department's done a good job of basically getting this location of the driveway moved. Basically, I think it's about 5 feet away from the adjoining driveway.
Something like that.
But our development regulations allow it. But I think
So how is it not consistent?
I think when you develop a subdivision, generally speaking, you minimize the number of adjoining driveways. Now you can't avoid them all, because typically when you start going up a street on one side or the other, you have to create at least one adjoining driveway. And that's not in our development regulations. As far as I can tell from the research that I've done in my experience, that's based on the best practices. Generally, it's avoided. What I'd like to see, and I'll just ask the committee if they could, I'll be voting in support of all the permits that are on this list, is can we revisit that issue? My position would be that driveways, when they're added to, according to our 50% rule, that we only expand the existing driveway as opposed to creating separate driveways going forward. So if possible, I would love to see the committee at least look at this issue. We have no choice at the moment to approve this because our development regulations say it's in accordance with all of our regulations. So I just want to make that comment. Hopefully, would the committee entertain the issue of looking at the development regulations going forward?
Councillor Ludwell.
Your Worship, certainly we can entertain that, that idea. We can certainly discuss it at committee and perhaps bring it back to a meeting of council just to let everybody know what the results are.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think it's a good idea that we bring it back and look at it, because maybe there are changes or amendments or improvements. That's how we improve them. But I do take a little exception to saying that it's not consistent with our development regulations. It's totally consistent with our development regulations. It complies with every aspect of it. It's not even discretionary in nature. We would actually be violating our own development regulations right now if we did not approve this driveway. It's not exactly an abutting driveway. It isn't a abutting driveway, but there is a separation there. There's several meters there, I think, of land separation. I know that at least one of the neighbors is not happy with that. I understand that. But he and others must understand that right now we can only apply the development regulations that are established to deal with the application that we have before us. Your recommendation, Councillor Aker, is well taken. We will certainly take the information back and look at it, and maybe there are some revisions and improvements that we can make to it to improve it. But I think to say it's not consistent with our development regulations is misleading, because it's totally consistent with our development regulations.
Could I clarify, Your Worship?
Well, I'm going to go to Mr. Yefchak first. Okay.
I meant to say subdivision approvals.
Go ahead. Mr. Yefchak.
Yeah, just for the information of council, this building permit has been issued for this driveway and parking stall. The site currently has 2 parking stalls, and the dwelling is a single-family dwelling with a subsidiary apartment. So under the current regulations, require 3 parking spaces. So the individual applied, as I understand, to get the 3rd parking stall for reasons of concerns about snow storage, snow clearing on the street. Where do you park the 3rd car? It's kind of the individual's concern. Having said that kind of background, these matters are really dealt with for the most part internally, because they do comply with the regulations, and staff go out, do an assessment. In this case, there was some adjustment made, and building permit was issued. I do like to point out, however, that since that point in time, we have received an appeal. One of the neighbors has appealed the issuance of the permit, and now that matter is before the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal Board. We were given notification last week, and we're in the process of preparing documentation and sending it. As a result of that appeal, we've advised in writing of the individual at 13 Pinware that the matter is under appeal. For the time being, that permit has been rescinded until the appeal is heard and a decision is rendered. And if it's in favor of council's decision, the permit will be reinstated. So I just wish to give you that background information.
Just clarification?
Go ahead, Councillor Aker.
No, I just wanted to say that I did say the word development regulations. What I meant from the best practices was when we approve the subdivision approvals. we try to minimize through the engineering. So Councillor Walsh is quite right in what he says, and I concur with what you're saying. And frankly, that's why I'll also support the permit list, because you're quite right. Our development regulations say that this fits and is in keeping. I just want to see the issue dealt with on a go-forward basis.
I think I understood what your intent was. Can I
When,
have another question?
I'm sorry? Do you want to go at more of this?
I just want to have another question. Two
Oh,
questions,
go
actually.
ahead. Go ahead.
What is the separation between the abutting driveway and this new driveway that would be put in place, Mr. Yefchik, number one? And the second thing, well, I might as well do it while I'm on my feet. We have an appeal, and we're going to address the appeal, obviously. And I think a couple of us were a little surprised that the permit has to sort of be rescinded while the appeal is being heard, knowing how long sometimes these appeals can take. It takes an awfully long time. If I were a proponent, and I know we have, I think, an opponent to this in the gallery here tonight, which is fair enough, but if I were a proponent of a development and I was totally compliant, I'd be a little bit fed up, quite frankly, if my routine development permit met all the regulations and was totally compliant, and then I had to wait for an appeal, which could take quite some time before moving on. And I guess my question is, in terms of a process, what about we had a second, a third, a 10th, or a 20th appeal? How long will we hold on for this? How long will we wait? And do we hold this permit in abeyance for what could be a very lengthy process? What do we do if we get a second or third appeal, I guess?
Mr. Yefchik, can you...
Two questions.
First question, obviously, what is the amount of open space between the driveways?
Your Worship, initially, and this is standard when we deal with driveways side by side on an adjacent lot, the initial amount was basically 1 foot separation or 30 centimeters separation between the two driveways. In this case, we've actually moved the driveway. I believe it's, what we've done is we aligned the driveway with the corner of the house, or the side of the house, and I believe that's 2.4 feet, or 2.4 meters. I have to check to make sure if it's 4 feet or meters, but it's right at the edge of the house, so there's a wider separation now for
2.4 feet is...
Yeah, or maybe 2.4 meters, which is, but I have to check. We have to confirm. I have to confirm the information for you.
Give us your professional view on Councillor Walsh's, I'll call it editorial, which by the way, I totally agree with. I have difficulty with this.
Yeah, under the rules of the appeal board, and this is provincial legislation, any person has the right to appeal a decision under the Urban Rural Planning Act 14 days from the date a decision is made or a permit has been issued. So in the case of this situation, a permit was issued, and there's there's someone, a property owner has an issue with the decision of council, the permit being issued, and they've appealed it within the 2-week period.
Right.
If we receive another appeal, let's say within a 2-week period, I would say that would probably just be attached to the original appeal. However, if we receive an appeal, let's say 3 weeks or 4 weeks, the reality is the appeal board will still wait for the appeal to go forward to actually advise the appellant that their appeal is not valid. In other words,
so it wouldn't hold up the process.
Yes, it would. It would still hold up the process, which is a bit of a problem.
But it might not hold up the process till there's a hearing.
But the problem is, you would still have a hearing. If you appeal beyond the appeal limits, the way it works is that the only group that can advise you that appeal is not, or that your appeal is not in accordance with the
I guess
act.
the technical piece here is not that. The technical piece here is, I have a permit that allows me to put in my driveway, and that permit is legal. That permit is legal. The city will, in actual fact, defend against this appeal if it's forced to. This is legal. We did not only what we wanted to do, but what we're required to do by law. Okay? Fair enough. All right, somebody appeals it anyway. Doesn't matter. Somebody appeals it. The city feels that because of that appeal, it's obligated to rescind the motion till the appeal board interprets what's going on under the Urban and Rural Planning Act. Fair enough. That board may not meet for 18 months. That board may not meet for 2 years. That board, in fact, has gone and not met for up to 2 years. Right? So here's the question. Is there not a mechanism available between that and then that says that the appeal board can say to the opponent of the application that in actual fact we've done our investigation, which will take all of about 8.5 seconds. This is compliant with all of the rules. The permit stands. And not have someone delayed by a year or a year and a half. I'm not so much concerned about a driveway. That's, a driveway is no big deal. But a $14 million building sure would be. That's my point. Is there a step between that shortens this deadline down?
Your Worship, unfortunately, there is not. There is. We can only hear the appeal. The matter can only be heard by the appeal board when they meet, and that decision. And you're right; they can do all the work that they need to do in advance, which is what they do. But they can only. It's only the appeal board when they meet make that decision. There's no interim step as you're suggesting. Whether that makes sense or not, I guess is certainly a good question to debate. But that's the way the rules are. The other piece of the legislation, just to make council aware, is that once an appeal is set by provincial legislation, and this is why it's perhaps been rescinded, that the development cannot proceed until the appeal is heard and a decision is made.
That's fine. I got no problem. That's the battle that has to exist between the opponent and the proponent of the development and the Urban and Municipalities Act. My concern with it is that a due process, legitimized in law, can be so easily thwarted by what would be, in law, considered frivolous. And that's, I have a struggle with. It's not that someone has the right to appeal. I believe they do. And they have the right to be heard. I believe they do. But the lack of swift justice, in this instance, right, creates an injustice. And the people most harmed by that happen to be the legislators. That's all. That's right. That's why I wonder, why wouldn't there be a process that the appeal board looks at this and either says yes, if the appeal board says yes, you have a legitimate appeal here, we need to look at this, fine, right? But if they look at it and say no, this complies on every term, there is no legitimacy on this appeal, this person has the right to go. In other words, they won't hear the appeal because they won't consider it legit. You're telling me that process does not exist for the appeal board. That's all.
Your Worship, we've had a situation where we've had a long period of time waiting for an appeal, and we've gone to the appeal board, and that's exactly what happened. We were there. The appeal board and the technical report from the Department of Municipal Affairs indicated that there was a problem with the appeal, and the appeal board asked a few questions of the appellant. They asked us a few questions, and then said, "Well, this is not." I think they extended. It went beyond the time limit. They said, "Well, this is not appealable. You didn't meet the terms of the appeal, and therefore this appeal is now no longer valid."
Yes,
but that took time.
That could very well happen here. In fact, it's very likely to happen here, but it might not happen until the summer of 2014.
Yeah,
or more likely the summer of 2015.
Well, and I agree with your concern in terms of timing, but we're subject to the rules of the Department of Municipal Affairs and the Eastern Newfoundland Regional Appeal
We've
Board.
had this battle before.
But there is another mechanism, though, if council wishes to deal with appeals in a different manner, and that is the establishment of their own local board of appeal.
Which is something we might want to. Could I have a?
Well, that's a different debate. I would be opposed to that, but that's a different debate. Go ahead.
I just for the sake of Mr. Is it Carberry, I just wanted to emphasize that this is not my objection. Is not over the pinware application so
No,
much
me neither.
as
Me
the
neither.
process. We all respect Mr. Carberry's or anyone else's right to appeal. I mean, as an appellant in this particular proposal, I have great respect for that and for the process. But I do have misgivings. If we, for example, put before council the development of an office tower or the hotel, which we're looking at doing, and someone decides they want to appeal, so we could have millions and millions and millions of dollars held up on an appeal on something that, quite frankly, is totally and completely compliant, meets all of our regulations, our development regulations, our zoning. That to me, warrants
is the
further investigation. And I'd love to see another intermediary step if we could. I understand and somewhat share the concerns of the mayor in terms of doing our own appeal process, because then you have you're the regulator and you're also hearing the
You're your own
appeals.
judge and
There's a
jury.
real
That's not
problem
right.
with that.
That's not
Obviously,
right
the
either.
perception and the optics of that is not good. But there should be, I think, another subsidiary or intermediary step in the process, because this is simply could take too long. And in this case it's a driveway, but it could be a multi-million-dollar proposal. It could be the hotel. It could be an office tower. It could be anything. It could be a residence that is totally compliant. You want to build a home. You're sitting on a piece of land. It's totally compliant. We want to issue a permit. Someone appeals it, and all of a sudden you're held up with your building for a year and a half. To me, it seems a little out of whack.
We even went through the process where we had 7 or 8 appeals pending, and when we went to investigate why it was taking so long, they hadn't appointed the board. This was after the election. We didn't have a board appointed. And I recall the public outcry, because we created it here, and the minister very quickly put a board in place and they met. But they still, like I say, I have no issue with this particular appeal other than it leads to that question-wise. But anyway, that's all we're doing here today is we are retroactively approving the permit we approved, right? Okay. It's great discussion, though. Mr. Yevchak.
I want to clarify one point as well, Your Worship. You mentioned about who's going to be defending what at the appeal board. The appeal is against our decision. So when we go to the appeal board, we will be the proponent that's dealing with the actual decision. The appellant is appealing against the council's decision.
Yes, we will be mounting our defense.
And the party at 13 Pinware will most likely be an interested party that will probably also be given kind of leave to make.
Yeah, it just seems to me that, again, a day's worth of investigation, and you could put this particular one, you could put to bed. The larger piece here is what happens when you run into a process that, quite frankly, is out of line. There's no justice in it. But, all right. We're obviously going to speak with the minister about it and others in the future. It's something to be discussed. For right now, I've got to call a question on permits. That's the first time there's ever been a debate over permits. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary-minded? Motion is carried. We're moving along. Regional Services Environment Committee.
Your Worship,
Council.
one last thing on planning, the commercial one.
Oh, I've missed something?
Yep.
I apologize.
Sorry to interrupt you, Your Worship. I just
quite all
wanted
right.
to let you know that we
You're
still
the
have
boss.
the we still have the commercial building permit listing to move. We have 297,000 for the period, as shown in the kit, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
That's it for planning.
Okay. Our first Regional Services and Environment Committee report for the new committee. Councillor Stoyles.
We did bring one 2 weeks ago, Your Worship. We didn't
Did
have
we
a
have
meeting,
one?
but we did have a report, just Your Worship, we certainly did.
Our second.
Water levels.
This is our second then.
It certainly is. But that's okay. That's okay. We just have a couple of information, I guess. The Regional Water Committee will be meeting tomorrow, and myself and Councillor Aker will be attending that, representing the city. And water levels, of course, is still maintaining with the weather we've had and the mild weather and the rain and everything. So, and the report was brought in 2 weeks ago. So, just wanted to bring that information only. And after the next meeting, after the meeting tomorrow, we will bring back a report. Also, Your Worship, the North East Avalon Regional Economic Development Board met on the 20th, and I want to thank you, Your Worship, for attending and representing me at that meeting, as I was off sick. But after the meeting, Kavanagh announced that he was resigning as chair of the board. And of course, this is the board, the Regional Economic Board, that the cuts had been cut back by a core, and a lot of the zonal boards has closed down, but this one has, I guess, kept going, and it sort of a life of its own for the past number of months, trying to keep going and come up with some new initiatives and things like that. I don't know if you have anything to mention, Your Worship, when you attended the meeting, or I know they're looking at probably closing the doors in March or April of next year.
They were actually, the meeting that I attended, they had made the decision, Councillor, that they were going to dissolve, quite frankly, at the end of this month. And that meeting, that decision had actually been voted on at a meeting prior. So this was now the date. And at the meeting, they consciously made the decision that they have two things that they really have to deal with. One is that they do have some accounts receivable, cash flow, to come in, and they also have some liabilities to pay. So if they could hang on for a couple of months, they believed that they would be able to close with the books balanced. Nobody would be out anything, in other words. So they made the conscious decision to actually stay open for another, I think, 90 days. I didn't vote on it, quite frankly, because I was only there as a, representing yourself. And that's basically what they decided to do.
And of course, they certainly have done some great work within the region. I know they did a lot of work down in Torbay and Petty Harbour and a lot of the small regional communities, and a great job was done by all the zonal boards across the province. And we just want to inform the public of that, Your Worship.
Thank you.
The other issue, Your Worship, was Powers Pond, the siltation that went on in Powers Pond, and of course we had received a number of complaints and that, and of course City of St. John's had a stop work order, and since then they've dissolved the work order, and they've met with DFO, and apparently they're quite happy with the work that's been taken on there. They've done a number of drains and a number of different siltations and things like that in the area, and the pond is certainly coming back to its natural state. And I know a number of our staff had been over there on a regular basis, and everything seems to be going quite well with it. And the City of St. John's have kept in contact with our staff, Your Worship, and our staff is quite happy with it as well. And that's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stoyles. Transportation, Public Safety Committee, Councillor Tessier. Will there be bragging?
Well, no, first of all, there's going to be an apology, because even though it wasn't an agenda item, Director Kinware ended up being quite the lengthy discussion. I advised Mr. Carberry that it wasn't a public item agenda today, but lo and behold, it turned out to be.
Yeah, it wasn't planning to be, but it was.
Lo and behold, it was not planned, but boy, you know what? Best laid plans, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Transportation and Public Safety Committee. This is my first time presenting this particular report, so I'm pretty excited about it. Not excited to tell you, though, that snow clearing regulations have now come into effect, which means we're going to be expecting the dreaded white stuff. As of December 1st, we have snow clearing regulations that Section 3 tells us that no vehicle is permitted to be parked on the street within the city from December 1st to March 31st. Both days inclusive, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning. So you cannot park your car on the street between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning from December 1st till March 31st inclusive. Also, no vehicle is permitted to be parked on any city street during a storm and for 12 hours thereafter. These are both ticketable offenses. So, of course, that's just common sense. That's just giving our crews an opportunity to properly clear the streets. And to make them safe, of course, for everybody.
I guess the challenge comes, and it's somewhat discretionary, I would think, Councillor, because I've done it, we've all done it, our neighbours do it all the time. You have a snowstorm on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Saturday morning, plows have been through a couple of times. You know, you got a driveway full of snow. Mm. You hack out enough to get the car out of the driveway.
Put it on the street.
And you park it on the side of the street. Now, technically, that's against the law, right?
Yep.
It is. But you can't leave all that snow in your driveway for 12 hours because then you're going to have ice. You're going to be, you know what I mean? It's you got to move it.
I think it's a reality that everybody
So how do we
understands.
find the balance, or do we? Mostly, I think we do.
You stay around the vehicle, if
Yeah.
you see the plow come, you move your car.
Exactly. That's essentially it. Like I guess what we're saying is don't take your car out of the driveway. I mean, everybody's got to clear their driveway. You have to move your car out to clear it.
Don't abandon it.
Don't clear it. Leave your car on the street and go back in. Once your driveway is cleared, bring it back in. Bring
Yeah.
the car back in
Take
off the
the car
street.
off the street.
Because it's to everybody's benefit, especially the people who live on that street, to make sure that the snow gets cleared properly.
Well, the problem, of course, is that if you're at number 14 and you...
And number
the guy
12
at
leaves
number
their car.
12 The guy at number 12 has got his car parked on the street while he plowed his driveway and he's left it there. If the plow comes down again, you're getting...
You're getting it.
They can't get in to get the snow. You're going to have twice as much snow to move.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. It's very frustrating.
Also, any vehicle that's parked on any street that's contrary to the regulations that we have stated may be removed and impounded, of course, at the owner's expense. And Section 6 with a minimum fine of $30 as well from December 1st to March 31st each year, both days inclusive. Nobody's allowed to shovel, plow, blow, or cause snow to be shoveled, plowed, or blown, any residue snow from a driveway or parking lot onto a street within the city. Now, we see this, unfortunately, a little too often. This is absolutely a ticketable offense. It is against our regulations. Again, it is entirely for the safety of our traveling public. So we would ask everybody to make sure that they do absolutely adhere to those regulations.
And it's a $30 bill.
Can I ask a
$30
question, Your
minimum.
Worship?
Deputy Mayor.
On that one there, Section 6, Councillor Tessier, where you can't blow or shovel or move into the streets, did we not address that or change our regulations that also included sidewalks some years back? Because I know that's certainly an issue around the school zones, where we have our sidewalk snow plows going around. They clear off the sidewalks for the kids to get through, and then some residents decide when they're clearing their snow that they leave a mound of snow across the sidewalks, forcing the children to walk out onto the streets.
Because it's a space.
Because of the space. So I thought we raised that a couple of years back, and if we haven't, I'd ask if committee could have a look at that and include that into our regulations and notify the public of that.
I thought it was.
I thought so well a couple of years ago, but if not, I can ask committee to have a look at that. I think it is. I think we did amend that years ago. So I just brought it to our attention while we were publicly speaking of it. A little reminder is, don't put it on the sidewalks either, because again, that impedes the walkers, but especially around the school zones where children are forced out into the street. So I just wanted to raise that concern as well, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will actually look to ensure that our regulations do include that. If they don't, then we will have to look at an amendment. Okay, today, myself, His Worship, Councillor Walsh, and Councillor Aker, and of course a whole lot of our city staff. It was such an exciting initiative to be a part of. We attended the Safety Snowplow Program, which is a winter safety program. When I say safety and safety, I'm getting caught up a little bit. But it is a winter safety program that is geared towards our younger children, our elementary and primary age children, and certainly younger as well. It's a program that we modeled after something that was done in Nova Scotia that we used last year to try and encourage safety amongst our younger demographic in the winter, around snowplows, around piles of snow. We held a contest where we wanted people to name it to help brand this particular initiative. And Nathan Elliott from Newtown Elementary actually won the contest. He created a drawing of a snowplow, called him Safety Snowplow, and the look on his face today when he saw the PowerPoint presentation show his actual drawing transform into a digital cartoon snowplow, the look on his face and on his classmates' faces, you could not put a price on it. It was absolutely beautiful. Of course, we were there. Members of the media were there as well. Some dignitaries from the school district, and of course the principal of the school. We provided every child from Nathan's class, every child from Nathan's class and the teachers and everybody that was there with a Safety Snowplow shirt. Isn't that nice? Yep, they were all very, very proud to put it on. And of course, a Safety Snowplow toque. Red, of course, being very, very significant in the sense that one of the themes is when it's white, the snow is white, so when it's white, wear something bright so that you're easily spotted. There was all kinds of themes discussed today around winter safety, especially around our snow clearing operations. It was just a wonderful thing to be a part of. We were thrilled about it. We're hoping that this is an initiative that the young people in our city, and certainly region and province, undertake as well, because this is very, very important. We all enjoy and appreciate the fact that our children love to participate in fun winter activities, building
And we're
forts.
all going to have a toque to wear at the parade.
That's right. Building forts and tunnels and all that fun stuff. And I've got to tell you, when my kids were small, they did it. They built tunnels in that big, lovely pile of snow that the plow leaves in the front of our yard. And it's truly one of the most dangerous things you can possibly do. So we have bookmarks and some information for adults. We've got a great winter activity guide for the children with all kinds of messaging inside as well about winter safety. And, of course, the posters that will be posted up, of course, around our city as well. So we wanted to commend all of the city staff that had a tremendous hand in making this happen. It was a great success today. We're really encouraged. We know the program is going to be absolutely wonderful and very well received by the children. As today is any indication at all, it's something that's really going to be quite successful, and our prayer is that it actually meets its purpose and encourages safety amongst our younger children during the winter months especially.
Thank you. Councillor Stoyles.
I just want to mention back a number of years ago, we were part of M&L, and the city of Mount Pearl was part of putting side guards on trucks and our equipment in the city and in other cities around the province and that. And I know the Jessica campaign was formed back, I guess, about 9 years ago. Jeanette Holm Price, who lost a daughter, and a second child who has brain injury because of an injury, because of a truck injury, a winter injury in Quebec, I think it was.
Montreal. Actually. Yep.
And just wanted to say it's great to see cities and towns doing something so important like this, especially when it comes to equipment, and hats off to the staff and to the city for taking on such a great project, because it is so worthwhile. You don't realise until you have a child that had an injury or is being affected by something like this, and it certainly brings everything back to light, and I just want to say great job.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tessier. All done?
All done.
We are up to new business. Councillor Aker.
No, sir, nothing, thank you.
Councillor Tessier again.
Yes, I'm on my feet. I have been told through the power of social media that there's some power outages in Mount Pearl right now. Yep, right now. Half the city apparently is out. And so it was a great reminder because, again, in recent years, for some reason when the power goes, I know in my particular area we lose power for very many days, and my side of the street particularly, for very many days. So it's a great reminder now that in winter months to be prepared, to have some propane, some small propane cylinders in your house or whatever you need to be able to heat up some food or boil a kettle, to have batteries. And this was an interesting one, candles. We have all kinds of candles, but boy, 1 year it was some hard trying to find a match. Candles, matches, tin food, gas in your car. You know, some of us with teenagers quite often see the empty sign on our car a lot more than we wish that we could. I'm telling you. But it's really quite important to have, you know, an adequate supply of gas in your car as well. So no, it's just a great reminder, and it's cold when it's cold and you have no power. The first hour or two is kind of fun. After that, it's not quite so much fun. After that, the fun factor wears off pretty fast. And I say that as somebody who now, in the last 5-6 years, we've had power outages in our neighborhood literally for days, 3, 4, 5 days. So that's very difficult. I can't imagine what it would be like for one of our seniors to endure that as well. So it's very important that people are prepared for the winter season, be prepared for the cold, be prepared to be able to live without electricity for a couple of days for sure. And also, I think tomorrow the Metrobus has their grand opening in their new location. They do. So that's a big celebration for them. I know it was a long time coming, so I want to congratulate them on that. And that's it.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
We had a power outage last week, did we not, at the glacier as well? One time I went up to last Thursday. So I went up to watch a ice hockey game, female team, and it was cancelled. So yeah, the power outages seem to be common here. Your Worship, I just have one item that I want to bring to the public, and that has to do with a production that the senior high school, Mount Pearl Senior High School, is putting off. I think it's the first time they've done sort of a Christmas performance. December the 11th, they're doing a musical, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I sort of snuck in on some of the rehearsals last week. And as Councillor Walsh can attest to, being a principal at O'Donnell, and they do their musicals, I think, every second year at O'Donnell. I mean, the talent is just unbelievable in the city of our young people. So I just want to throw out the date there. It's December the 11th at the school. So that's, I think, is a Wednesday night. Yeah, starting at 7 p.m. Well, I might have a few tickets in my pocket here, but they're for a different thing. But I just want to throw it out there because I know the students are very excited about it, and I think the charge is, I think, a food donation and a small cash charge. I forget the exact price, but they're going to do a show Wednesday night and then hopefully a couple of matinees on Thursday for the school. So just say again. Theater arts class? It is sort of a theater arts class, but there's other children involved as well. So it's going to be a great show. So I throw it out there to the general public and anyone on council who would like to drop up and watch it. Also, we're hoping that as a part of our Santa Claus parade, we're hoping to have a float in this year. And of course, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas will be the theme of the float. They're going to use some of the sets that the students have put together. So it's a neat little event. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. And Renee Pike is the teacher behind this, and the students are putting a lot of hours into it. So I'd encourage all folks to get out and take it in. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stoyles.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to say that I've heard that June Layden is retiring. June is with the RNC.
She has officially retired.
She has officially retired, and I'm sure through the city we will be contacting her. But June was involved in community policing here in Mount Pearl, and I've met her, I guess, close to 20 years ago, and she certainly put an awful lot into our community. And I just wanted to say thank you to her for all the work that she has done in the community and in the province, and I'm sure she's going to enjoy her retirement. Also, Your Worship, attended a funeral this morning for Gloria Fry. Gloria passed away last week on Thursday, and Gloria was a long-time resident of Mount Pearl. She lived on Edinburgh Drive. Her parents moved in here almost 55 years ago, and both of them passed away a number of years ago. And Gloria had no siblings. She was the only one left in the family. But I wanted to mention Ines Jansen, who was such a great friend to her and visited her quite regularly, and took an awful lot of time to look after Gloria and her family. And just wanted us to send off our condolences to Ines Johnson and to the rest of the Fry family, and for, because she was certainly involved in a lot of things in the community and in her church at the First United Church here in Mount Pearl. I have one other item, Your Worship, that I wanted to mention and wanted to get some information on, because the past number of weeks, since we had a little bit of snow and the freezing weather and things like that, up behind Mount Pearl Square, Sobey Square, as I call it, and we all know it's Sobey Square, I'm of the understanding that there's a business operating up there without a license, and as we all know, we get complaints.
There's a business operating behind Sobey Square.
Sobey Square, without a permit, without a business, and we've had a number of complaints about it. The residents that lives behind that have had problems last winter with it, and they apparently have some kind of a container up there that they have salt, and they go and pick up the salt and do other businesses around. It's only a small company doing it, and they do it apparently the past number of winters. And since the development have been up there on Brent's compound, and they've been really, I've received emails 3 and 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. One night last week when we had a little bit of snow, I happened to wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and so 3 o'clock I got ready and drove up to Sobey Square, and lo and behold, they were just leaving the parking lot. And of course I wasn't going to confront them, but I just wanted to go up and hear the noise for myself and see how bad it actually was. And let me tell you, if it was in my neighborhood, I wouldn't want it. And the thing is, they're up there operating without a permit, and we should be able to go up and close that container down. It's different when they're up doing their own lot, to open it early in the morning, and a few times that happens in the year, like the residents said to me, they would tolerate stuff like that. Like we get calls from different companies around, I remember back years ago.
So this is not the beep reverse because they're actually plowing the lot.
No.
This is actually their salt storage area for all of the lots they're servicing throughout the region.
My understanding from the residents
And that they're there.
and she sent me a video, and I passed it on to staff. They go in at least 2 times during the night. They go in, sometimes they get it before they leave in the evening, and they load up the salt, and then 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning they go, because they're plowing lots and salting out of parking lots within the city, and they're using this as a business. They're using the parking lot behind the Mount Pearl Square as a container to store their salt, and they have a little backhoe up there. I mean, I was up, we sent pictures along to the staff, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous for us to be tolerating residents being awake
Well, first
every
of all,
morning.
we don't know that.
Well, we've been told it.
Well, we don't know that.
We have videos.
So I'm
We
going to
do.
stop you for a second. Have we at any point in this investigated whether or not this is a business operating from that site? Has any of us ever been made aware of that? I mean, we're all
Yes.
aware of the problem with plowing the lot and the noise in that area. And we understand that, they're exempt from our snow clearing regulations. This is, to me, a completely new issue. Mr. Yevchep, you look like you know something about it.
I wish I could say I do. I'm aware of the situation. I'm aware of the complaint, and I've heard the video or the noise, the
You're
audio.
aware of the complaint that this is a business
And
operating?
I know it's under investigation. Inspectors have been to the site, but I've not received a report back from the inspector, so I can't definitively say what is the situation there, whether it is a business operating that's going to other sites around the region, or if indeed it's just related to the operation at Mount Pearl Square. But regardless, if it is creating the type of nuisance as it's creating, certainly we're going to try and address that issue. But I can't give you any more information than that at this point.
I actually believe that we have to change our regulations and take the exemption that exists for snow clearing operations out of our regulations and make it discretionary to council to have control of it. However, the accusation being leveled here by Councillor Stoyles is a relatively serious one, and so I want to be cautious about that, and I want to make sure that we are conducting the investigation to ensure that we don't have somebody actually operating a portion of their business from that site. Okay. Anyway, carry on, Councillor Stoyles.
Well,
But that's news to me.
What I would like to see done is I mean, it can't be too difficult to go up and catch them especially when we have
Could be
snow.
difficult after this.
Well, I mean, they need to move out that location. If they are operating a business up there, the residents don't deserve to have that toleration. I've received, and I have it on my phone, when there was snow, at least I think 4 different nights at between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, that emails came in, and I forwarded them on the staff that residents were awakened that hour in the morning on a constant basis because of the business being operated up there. So I want to mention tonight, because the residents have said to me, how long more have we got to wait? It started last year.
So it's not their site that they're plowing that's causing the problem.
No. What they're saying to me, I'm only saying
Okay.
what I've been told by the residents up there, that I want to investigate as soon as possible, and hopefully the residents will get some sleep in that area.
We will certainly check all of that out. Councillor Aker.
Just a thought, if there is a container on the site, it's basically an accessory building, and basically we should be able to quickly haul up whether or not a permit was issued. So
There's no
regardless of
permit
the
issue for that.
operation,
There's no permit issue for that. Come on. It's not
you would for a shed or a building issue would.
It's not,
So we haven't issued a permit there.
It's a container filled with salt.
Regardless
that
of
they
the
use-
investigation.
That they're supposed to be using to take care of the lot at Soldier Square.
I would
Well,
expect
Mount
that they
Pearl
would.
Square now.
I would expect, though, Your Worship, they would have to receive an approved permit for the shed, which is a container in this particular case. So maybe we can tackle it from that angle right there. Without a big investigation, let's just check and see if there's a permit. If there's no permit,
No, I'm sure there's not. We have
but
a
Your
nuisance
Worship, if there's no
problem up there
permit,
that
let's
needs
ask
to
them
be-
to apply for one.
Yeah, we have
We'll go from there.
we have a nuisance problem up there that needs to be addressed. And,
True.
And because of the way our regulations are worded, to go right back to what happened on Pinway, because of the way our regulations are, we find ourselves in a circumstance where we must do. So these people are actually using our regulations against us, because they're actually saying, well, we're exempted, so we don't give a damn whether we wake up the people up in Branscomb's Pond at 3 a.m. in the morning. We don't care that nobody is coming in here to work till 8 o'clock, and that we really don't have to be on this lot till 6:30. We don't care, right? That's the problem I have with that particular aspect of I want to shut that down. Now, So does Councillor Stoyles. My concern is that Councillor Stoyles, though, has leveled an accusation that goes way beyond that. I wish you hadn't done that in the public chamber, but well enough. Next item. We're going to go after it anyway. Next item. Or are you done with that, Councillor? Thank you.
I was hanging midair there. I didn't know if she was done with that. First of all, just to Councillor Stoyles' point about the Jessica campaign and the side guards, I just want to mention that we actually did have a truck there today with the side guards installed as one of our new vehicles. That we have the guards that were installed as a result of the Jessica campaign a number of years ago. That was a bit of a safety precaution that was added. Unfortunately, because of the weather conditions today, we didn't get an opportunity to get the children outside because, quite frankly, it was raining very, very heavily. Yeah, but we were happy that we were great. It was great that the crews were there and that the trucks were there on display, and we certainly appreciated having some of the staff there. Second thing I want to mention, Councillor Tessier mentioned Nathan Elliott. I want to extend congratulations to him, but she described the face of Nathan and how he was beaming, and that's so true. I was sitting a little bit behind him, and he was to my right, but I was sitting immediately next to his grandmother and his parents, and they were beaming just as much, if not more, I can assure you. So they were pretty proud, and it was a great event today. So hats off to all involved, our staff, Connie, the community services people, our public works people. It was a joint effort. The school district, the principal there, Vicky Anstey, everybody pitched in, and you did a great job emceeing it, Councillor Tessier, and of course our mayor, so eloquent, always does a good job in front of the crowd. So it was a nice event. We need more of those. They're really, a tremendous way to highlight safety and the security of our young children, particularly during winter and adverse winter conditions. I wasn't sure if Councillor Stoyles was going to mention this or not, but Judy Kennedy, one of the longtime residents of Mount Pearl, passed away within the last few days. She's not been buried until sometime next week. I think there's a situation whereby they're waiting for some family members to come home. But Judy has been, and her husband Bob, who's predeceased, I think, they were long time residents of Mount Pearl. I mean, they go back to the 1940s. They both attended school in Park Avenue School in Mount Pearl. She was very active, very healthy, actually. She was a regular bowler. In fact, she bowled with my wife, who was a star athlete. Just kidding. Bowls on the Wednesday mornings with her, and they really enjoy that. Mona, that's not going to be in the record, is it? No. Yeah, it's on video.
You seem to forget that Scott's sitting in the room.
Yeah, I'm only serious. Scott, we'll talk later. Anyway, no, seriously, it is a great loss, and it's a great loss for the community. Sorry? And I just wanted to pass along condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be very brief. I have just one item. The Deputy Mayor mentioned the Santa Claus Parade, or was it the Santa Claus Parade earlier? The Mount Pearl Lions Club, of course, are the group that is responsible for organising a lot of this. They've been doing this for a number of years, certainly as long as I can remember. And just want to throw out a bit of a bouquet and thank the Lions Club for all the work that they do. I know as a member of the Lions Club, I know all of the work. They start planning this stuff in October or September, forming committees. They pack all the candy that gets distributed. They spend hours and hours and hours and weeks putting this together. So I just want to say a word of thank you publicly to the Lions Club for all that they do for putting together our Santa Claus Parade, and certainly wish them all the best as they continue to do all of the good work that they do in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. I have one final item that I want to report under new business to Council today. Yesterday morning at 10 a.m., I met with Minister Steve Kent, the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I and 12 other mayors from the region. And this was to deal with the Northeast Avalon Regional Plan, or if you will, the failed effort or stalled effort to complete the plan. The mayors met with the minister. The minister advised us that he very much wants this project to now move forward. He would like to see a new regional plan for the Northeast Avalon put in place within the next 18 to 24 months. To that end, he asked the mayors about how we could structure a process that would lead to success given that the last process and the structure, quite frankly, around it made success, let's say, elusive. The mayors, in discussion yesterday, determined that there would no longer be a two-committee structure. There was a management committee, which Councillor Tessier was actually co-chair of for the original effort on the plan, and there was also a technical committee that made up of planners and economic development people and strategic people within the bureaucracy of municipalities around the region, and a consulting firm that was putting together a report to go back to all the towns and cities for some approval. It got bogged down, and it went nowhere. What the mayors recommended to the minister, and that the minister accepted yesterday, just so everybody knows, is that there will be an oversight committee, not a management committee. And the oversight committee will actually consist of the 15 mayors in the region. And that committee will be chaired by the minister. Rather than establish a situation where there's another committee, a technical committee, involved, we're going to instead look to municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, to actually be the project managers. And they will pull in the necessary resources to work with the towns to put a plan together. We think that that has a much better chance of success given the realities of what worked last time around. As I say, the minister is eager to get this project started. It will lay some demands on our senior staff here, more so than council, because there are, by M&L's Community Cooperation Resource Center, the CCRC Center, they are going to get drawn into this to provide input, information, background material, etc., on our regional view of everything from roads to water to whatever you could think of, including regional economic development and so on. And that's going to be a part and parcel of what's happening. The meeting lasted about an hour and a half yesterday. It was very positive. I won't say that we walked away from it with a unanimous point of view. There is, the question of whether or not M&L is willing to take on that challenge. I understand, having talked via technology today, I never really talked to him as much as I read him, the executive director indicates that he and the president have discussed it. It's going to go to the board and for approval, and the board is meeting here in Mount Pearl next week. We're going to be hosting them, and right now it looks very much like M&L is going to take on the challenge that's being put to them by the mayors and by the minister. So that's going to be the new process, but I thought I'd brief everybody to let you know that that is about to get started. And an 18 to 24-month timeline, I think, is reasonable. I was pushing for a 12 to 18 months. Some people think that's unrealistic, but you know my policy, a project without a deadline is a project never done. So I just wanted to brief you on all of that. And I think overall that's pretty good news. We paid a tremendous amount of money into this plan. All of the municipalities did. They did it on a per capita basis with 50% of the funding coming from the province. There's about $300,000 left to carry on with this. So if there is more money to come into the play, from our perspective and from the town's perspective, I think it won't be a significant hindrance if there is to get it completed. But as far as I'm concerned, the green light happens really this week, but I thought I'd brief you on that meeting that went on yesterday. And that's my bit of new business for right now. I could tell you about our trip to Ottawa, which was fantastic. We met with all of the members of Parliament there, our members of Parliament. We met with them. We met with some senators as well. I represent the three cities, as you know, on the FCM National Board. This was their Advocacy Days program last week, and the big push is one that's near and dear to Mount Pearl's heart. I had the pleasure of making a presentation to the Atlantic Caucus of FCM on our position as it relates to affordable housing, the initiatives that we've undertaken already to try and address affordable housing. And I had the pleasure to also make the same argument, if you will, or points, to the 5 Liberal members of Parliament, as well as the 2 New Democrat members of Parliament, 2 Liberal senators and 1 Conservative senator, that the most vulnerable group in Canada today that's threatened with issues surrounding homelessness are seniors. And it's because the world is moving on, and quite frankly, they're not able to. And we had quite an interesting debate at the Social and Economic Development Committee, which happens at the very same week, at the very same time, on Wednesday afternoon, over how do you engage a government that's so obsessed with the economy to have them think of social things like social housing and affordable housing. And some people there, I certainly cheered on the idea that somehow we have to frame the argument in economic terms for this government to that's their raison d'etre, this federal government. It's got to be done in economic terms. How we achieve it, I don't know. They've asked all of us for our next meeting to come back with recommendations on exactly how we go with doing that, but we may get a chance in this region to talk about that as well. But anyway, those are the things that are going on. It's been a very busy week in the life of the city of Mount Pearl. We will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Councillor Walsh. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.